ever become.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Why is it that large population centers, like places like Los Angeles and New York, are almost always run by the Democrats?
Yeah.
I mean, we can answer this really easily. Overwhelmingly popular majority goes to the Democrats, which is why they've won every popular vote except for the last election, which in my political lifetime is the first one that the Republicans have won by popular vote.
Like, what is it about, first of all, what happened with the last election in Los Angeles, just the primary, I think was
crazy.
so super sus.
Yes,
And
it is.
I like how they think a Democrat winning in LA is sus. This would be like going into a deep red state like Florida right now and being like, it's crazy how the Republican pulled out ahead in the end and won the vote, you know? It's a very stupid take. Nobody should take Joe Rogan seriously when it comes to anything involving politics.
Here's why it's super sus. Not just super sus that Spencer Pratt, who was in second place, got overtaken by Nithya Raman.
By the way, the thing they're talking about here is they got overtaken when the mail-in votes, who overwhelmingly come in for Democrats, because Republicans have spent years saying that you shouldn't vote by mail is unreliable, don't vote by mail, and then they're so surprised that vote by mail goes overwhelmingly Democrat. Well, you've spent your entire last decade saying vote by mail, don't vote by mail, don't vote by mail. Why are you so surprised that your voters don't vote by mail?
In the mail-in ballots, but that the mail-in ballots also passed a tax hike. The people voted to pay more taxes.
Yep.
In a state where you have the highest
taxes. That's right.
Yeah, it's almost like taxes are used to do something, and the thing they're voting for is that they want their taxes to be used to do the thing. So yeah, people vote for tax hikes all the time because they want the services those tax hikes provide. Like, they look so shocked, and it's because they're too stupid to understand the basic policy prescriptions of you're doing a tax to do a thing. Doing a tax to do a thing. You want to keep the roads maintained? You do a tax, you keep the roads maintained. You want services that are going to sweep away, let's say, ice every winter? Well, you're going to have to pay the people that go out and do that. That's a tax. It doesn't just magically appear. And a lot of times these direct ballot initiatives are taxes where it says this funds are going directly to this thing. So you're going to get taxed this much extra to have this extra service, which is a very basic thing. And it's no surprise that people in LA are more amenable towards like higher taxes for better services, because they believe in community. They believe their community can do things to benefit the rest of their community. Unlike these people who just think that everybody should live in their own personal, like, little individual household fiefdom, and then they wonder why nobody likes them, nobody talks to them, and they have no community built around them. Well, you've ostracized everyone around you by saying you don't want to participate in society, basically. So, kind of on you, bud.
They're like, we don't pay enough. That is insane. Then when you have direct evidence that they were recruiting homeless people.
That's right.
And they were getting homeless people and giving them cigarettes and cash. There's evidence of this. To use their address and mail-in ballots.
Yeah,
I'd love to see the evidence of it. They always say they have evidence of it, and yet they never produce it.
I'm going to go and vote for high.
Because that would be a form of voter fraud by essentially bribing voters to vote the way you want them to, which you could prosecute in court. Of course, that'll never happen because they don't have any actual evidence that's the case. If they did, they would be crowing about this court case that they've already won. But they don't, because they don't have that evidence.
Higher taxes.
I don't pay enough.
I don't pay enough taxes.
I feel like we could fix this if I just pay 5%
more taxes. The crazy thing about it, too, is it's that, okay, so after the initial ballots all came in, it was Karen Bass was number one, Spencer Pratt was right behind her, and then number three, whatever this woman's name is, Nithya Raman. Okay, so you would expect the mail-in ballots to be more or less like the original ballots in terms of 1, 2, and 3. I'm not saying Spencer.
No, you wouldn't. This idea that the ballots coming in, then you would say that no election could ever be changed by mail-in ballots, because you have to expect the mail-in ballots will act just like people who voted in person. Those are two very different demographics. The people who would vote in person are different demographically than the people who are going to be voting by mail. And so you're going to see different behaviors. That's like pretty basic.
Democrats going to win the mail-in ballot.
And by the way, it's pretty basic, and we're talking about the vice president of the United States. He knows that this isn't true. He is actively lying at this point, I would say. I don't think just saying he's an idiot and he doesn't understand this basic political theory is... It doesn't seem possible for somebody this high up in government to be completely ignorant of that.
But it just so happened that the third place person in relative terms did a lot better than the first and second place person.
Disproportionately better.
Such that the Republican was actually kicked out of the race so that there's not actually a real election in California. That to me was the crazy.
There is a real election in California. The general masses got to vote, and they voted that they didn't even want a Republican in the running because you guys are so bad and your platform is so shit that they don't even want to have the option on the ballot. They would rather fight between two Democrats that are more closely aligned. Like, it's kind of like if you believe strongly that we should have certain services, you want to vote between two people that are going to compete for that service being more or less funded or different ways of funding it, that kind of thing, versus the guy who's saying he wants to go, like, I don't know, fuck a goat in a field. You wouldn't even put that guy on the ballot because he's so far out in left field that you don't even want to have that option up there. Which, like, to be fair, is probably better than what Republicans do because at least that goat was of age.
Easy part. It's like you were designing the vote share in order to kick Pratt out and put the third person into second place. That to me is like very, very bizarre. Because what is the theory of the mail-in vote that is somehow like so much more pro-Nithya relative to Karen Bass?
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense. Why would it be?
Yeah.
Why would it be? I mean, Karen Bass was ahead by every metric.
Yeah.
And yeah, younger people tend to vote by mail. People who are working tend to vote by mail. All areas that she would do better than Karen Bass in. And she's just a populist candidate. And generally, populist people don't necessarily, you know, they're working. They're trying to get by. They don't necessarily have time to go do the ballots in person. And they, you know, trust the system based on the evidence we have available, which is strong that there hasn't been any evidence of mail-in voter fraud to a large enough extent to actually affect elections within the U.S. Which, like, you know, is a pretty played out thing. But, like, I can only give you the same arguments if they're going to keep making the same arguments against it, and their arguments are terrible. Like, there's only so many things you could run through to put it in a novel way that they're saying something really stupid here, you know?
But I mean, okay, so you asked the question, why do all these blue states, or why do all these big cities, population centers end up becoming blue? And I think it's like a very complicated, right? So one thing, and you said this a few months ago, and like when you said it, I was like kind of annoyed by it, but then I like thought, there's like an element of truth to it, which is that Republicans still fundamentally have a cool problem, right? There's something more charismatic, more cool about the Democrats as opposed to the right.
Did I say that?
So
yeah, because like it's hard to be cool while you're literally just a corporate stooge who takes money from APAC and CPAC and whatever corporation wants to fund your political campaign and then just giving them everything they want. You know, there's something fundamentally uncool about being so establishment that you're just like, oh yeah, like, I don't know, Chase Bank is giving me money. Sweet. I'll cut regulations. We'll try and get rid of Glass-Steagall, that kind of thing. Sorry, that's not exactly counterculture.
You said something about there are too many dorks or something on the right.
There's a lot of dorks.
You know, fair. I'd say there's a lot of dorks.
He's one of them. JD Vance is one of them.
It's a different kind of dork.
It's a different kind of dork. But the point is that there's something, you know, like, okay, if you're a pop star, you're a rock star, you're an actor, you're in all these cultural centers, you're more likely to be left than right. And so I think that a lot of young people who are attracted to these population centers, they sort of move along with the prevailing culture. I think that's
you're also
that's
more
one
likely
thing
to be
that's going
educated.
on. I think
if you're
the
in
second
those,
thing that's
those
going
groups
on
as well,
is
which correlates
the people
to
who
your
are sort of
political
attracted
affiliation.
to a certain kind of right of center politics. They want the suburbs. They want the single family home. They kind of want to be left alone. They don't want sort of to be able to hear what their neighbors are doing. So I think a little bit of it's just cultural self-segregation. And that's meant that a lot of these
Yeah, so this is exactly what I was talking about in a different segment, where the right tends to isolate themselves. They pretend like they've built this community, and the most they have for community building is essentially their church. But the idea of this atomized family in a suburban home, white picket fence, where you don't know your neighbors, you can't see them, you want to be as far away as possible, you know, like get your acre and never be able to even communicate with people around you. It's very isolating. It's very inhuman, and it makes for like bad social like formation. Which I think then leads to the people that are leading this party who maybe also believe in that kind of thing, and they stay away from larger communities. They're not in these large areas where they would get those social interactions, kind of those bad social interactions, bad social tendencies beaten out of them by just basically being ostracized from different groups until they realize that they need to change that behavior. They just never get that like social training, if you will, because they just don't associate around people as often as Democrats would.
population centers have gone blue, but it's very complicated. I thought
And before anybody says in the comments, this is always a generalization, not a specifics thing. There's going to be exceptions to the rule, you know.
about this a lot. And I also just, man, I'm not one of these people who says we should just abandon California to the Democrats, like let them deal with their own problems. I think California is like a quintessential part of the American dream. Like if you
California is also the economic powerhouse of the U.S. They wouldn't want to ditch California because then all of their red states, welfare states, would go under because they would not be receiving enough cash into the Fed to pay out for the social programs that keep these large swaths of land with barely any people in them that don't contribute a lot to taxes. Because if you have less population density, it's worse for taxes. If you have like a farm every 5 acres, you only have like 5 taxable people. Whereas if you take those same 5 acres and you put in like apartment complexes and stuff like that, and let's say you have 100 people, well, now you have 100. You know, you've 25 or 20 times your tax base for that same area of land. And that's why a lot of times these blue states that have large population centers are subsidizing the red states when we're talking about like federal grant money, federal aid.
just abandon California, you've like lost something very core to American culture. And I don't want to give up on it. Like, I'm not saying we're going to win California in my lifetime necessarily, but I don't like the idea of giving up on it.
Well, it's not just giving up on. I mean, giving up on it would be terrible. It's an awesome state. The real problem.
Hell yeah, it is. Finally, they recognize it. I don't want to go too far into it because Joe Rogan tends to copyright strike stuff, so I'm going to leave it there. But yeah, if you want to watch that, it's on the Joe Rogan Experience. It's a wild interview. They talk about everything from UFC to politics, obviously, with JD Vance. But the idea that either one of these two knows much about politics is a little bit laughable. I think JD Vance knows a lot more than he lets on. I think he intentionally makes himself seem stupider because he can get away with his bad positions that way. But what are you going to do? That's like this entire administration, you know?